I know you won't be coming back. You're cold. You might as well be buried in the snow. All the family have a pint, talk about the reasons why there are no clouds left in my sky. I've been kicked too hard, I'm on a roll. An asshole watching TV, curious about the weekend weather. I slow down on my bicycle and look 'em in the eyes, they can see me. In black and white.
The problem is we have too many greedy people in this world that really don't care. See, people in power, they profit from war. Oh, yeah. Always.
They do.
And because they profit from war, they have no reason to solve it. None.
Right,
does it make sense?
They want it, right?
Does it make sense to you to feed a country and bomb it at the same time?
Right.
So you're defeating the purpose. You feed them and you're bombing them at the same time. What are you accomplishing other than using great deal of supplies in food and military weapons? Who's profiting from that? The rich, the powerful, the greedy. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
And I think I really have a sense that our administration used what happened on September 11th as a pretext for a lot of militarization and authoritarianism that they had wanted to do for a long time. I don't think it's a solution at all to terrorism. I think that the United States actually has geopolitical interest in Afghanistan that it's been wanting to pursue since at least about 1998, and it has to do with an oil pipeline. I think that's at least one goal, and I think that the link to Afghanistan has been really flimsy. The claim is that Afghanistan is harboring members of a terrorist group. We've never seen any evidence that there's any real support from the Taliban government of this group. And in fact, if you look at the history, there's a much clearer documentation of connection between the U.S. government and that group, that is CIA support for bin Laden, and yeah, exactly, and also much clearer support, for example, that links that group to the ISI in Pakistan, which we're supporting right now. You know, and given the sort of long history of the United States claiming that it needs to support dictatorial governments in the third world in order to fight certain enemies, and then a few years later attacking those same governments and telling us that they're, terrible abusers of human rights and that we have to go in with the military and destroy them. It looks like they're setting up Pakistan to be another Iraq. So for all we know, in 5 years, we're going to be hearing, well, there are all these awful human rights abuses in Pakistan. Now we have to go in there with the military.
Nobody knows what to do about it.
Right.
So far. Nobody knows what to do about it.
And they can hit everywhere,
You can't hit everywhere.
You cannot really...
And unless you could pinpoint where this is coming from and wipe it off,
Right.
that's the only way you could do it. And you really like to do that.
If, imagine this, if they could drop an atomic bomb on Afghanistan, I think it would be the right thing to do.
No.
Why? People that are innocent?
Yeah. Oh, that's, at this point, that's unnecessary. Well, this city, I've watched it, as I said, over the years, go from being a reasonable sized town to now they want it like New York. They want it like New York.
Yeah.
I say they, the people over here in this idiot building. They're the ones that want it like New York.
They all do.
Oh,
They
yeah.
all do.
It's all politics. It's all
Yeah,
politics.
it's all politics.
I mean, this street here used to go straight through town.
Really?
Yeah, that street went straight through
Or down they built all that stuff there, right?
until they put that monster building up there, cut it in half.
My practical life doesn't change that much. I've flown quite a bit since September 11th and gone through long lines. I have a ponytail, I carry a guitar sometimes. I'm always the one they pull out and check through. That's okay. I don't put a lot of, I don't watch the news. I read an occasional thing. I don't really trust media. You know, it's sort of, it's owned and it's operated for various, you know, things. I trust the weather, you know. I look at the weather, you know, because that's about it. In LA, around, you know, the movie industry that I work in and that sort of thing, it's go ahead and bomb them. You know, it's
I hope for the future it gets resolved. You know, I hate to see any conflict myself against any nations. You know what I mean? I'm glad there's people who know more about it to make the decisions. You know, I'm a military personnel, I'm a retired Marine, so I kind of go with the President of the United States. Whatever he does. Well, then again, I have a deep sorrow for the Afghanistan people too. Mine goes both ways. Yeah, they're intervening to stop terrorists. However they choose to do it, their minds are much greater than mine. You know, they must have generals and all that putting together a plan. You know what I mean? And I just gotta have faith that they know better than me. What I noticed though is a lot of people are getting back into prayer, which is a good thing. I noticed the churches, again, the population in the churches are beginning. Everybody's talking about God again. That's my perspective.
You know, there's a verse in the scripture that says, first get the log out of your own eyes so you can see clearly to get the speck out of someone else's. And I think, you know, current state in America, people really need to turn to God, you know, turn to Jesus, and then be able to see more clearly, you know. I think vengeance was just too quickly, you know, I went to a Halloween party and someone was holding Osama bin Laden's head, you know, and he won first place, you know. A spirit of vengeance, you know, vengeance is the Lord's, you know. Everything should be done out of love to God through Jesus, you know. Jesus said, as Moses, you know, he lifted up a snake in the desert,
Right.
and they were all being bitten by snakes, and they looked at the snake and they were healed. He said, in the same way, the Son of Man must be lifted up.
And he was lifted up on the cross. And now when we look to the cross, we go to heaven instead of going to hell.
Right.
Our hope is in heaven, and we go to heaven. We guarantee of that place.
Yeah, so my hope is that the Muslims will understand that eternal truth.
We have been enemies for a long, long time, going back to the Crusades.
Right.
You know,
Right.
thousands of years ago. And I was just reading something about the something that's in the Quran. That was called something that was in the Voice of the Martyrs. It's a magazine published in Oklahoma.
Right.
And it says in the Voice of the Martyrs that Allah, the Muslim God, is a stone idol. It's a pagan god. It's not the God of the universe.
No.
It's a moon god.